going to look at how to use macros to improve productivity. In order to use macros, we're first going to need to go into Word Options and customize the ribbon so that the Developer tab is available. But you don't have to be a developer to use macros. It can be as simple as recording a series of events that you perform on your computer. For example, in my work, I often use these chevron characters to delineate fields for information. But there's not always a simple way to stick them into the document. So I'm going to record a macro that produces the chevrons and then places the cursor between them. I'll give the macro a name. We can store the macro in any document that's open, but if we want it to be available all the time, we want to store it in normal.dotm. Finally, I can produce a keyboard shortcut for running the macro. I'll go ahead and make it Control-Alt-C. Right now that's currently assigned to copyright, but I never use that, so no big deal. All right, now we see this little cassette tape icon underneath the mouse. That just indicates that we are recording a macro. Word will record everything that we do now. We'll start by inserting a couple of symbols. We want our opening chevron and our closing chevron. And then I'm just going to hit the left arrow in order to move the cursor between them. And that's it. I can stop recording right now. So now, just by pressing the key combination that I entered in earlier, I produce the chevrons and put the cursor between them. Having recorded the macro, I would recommend going into the Visual Basics section in order to take a look at the script that was actually produced. You don't need to be a programmer to understand all of this. We can just recognize that here it seems to be running a command in order to produce a symbol. And these are properties of that symbol. It'll be Unicode. This is apparently the character number associated with the opening chevron. And then here it's assigned it a font. Now this is just a result of the word recorder trying to be thorough. In reality, I don't want it to assign a font to the chevrons I produce. So we'll go ahead and delete those. Now when I go back to the document, I can run my macro. And even if the font where I'm running the macro is different from the one that it was originally recorded in, it should still be perfectly safe. So it's always a good idea to look at the code that was produced, even if you don't fully understand it. Let's look at another example. I want a macro that inserts my company letterhead into any document I'm working in. So I'll start by recording a macro. I'll call it letterhead. And I don't need a keyboard shortcut because I'm going to have a different way of entering this macro. Hit OK, and we can see in the developer section already that it's creating the script that we're going to need. So I'll want to start by entering in a header. And you can see it writes the script for that. I'll go ahead and change this to centered. And I want this header to be a little higher than it is by default. When I enter that in, it's going to write all kinds of page setup information into the script. This is another example of Word just being thorough in the way that it's recording things. In reality, this is the only part that I added, so we can delete everything else. With the space for the letterhead prepared, I'll go ahead and select a letterhead. Now, normally our branding for this is blue, but I'm going to go ahead and try this daring orange number. There we go. And then all I have to do is close the header and footer. Looking over the code we produced, I think the only thing to make note of is that if we ever change the location of the picture, we just need to update it here. Now we just need an easy way to launch the macro. I'm going to just add it to the quick launch toolbar here. So I've selected more commands, and then I'm just going to go to my macros. And here we have my letterhead macro, and I'm going to modify it to give it a better name. I'll just call it letterhead, and select for it this nice mountainy icon here. Hit OK, and now we've added a button to Word that will allow us to add a letterhead to any document. So if I open up a new document, all I need to do is just hit this button to add my company's letterhead. And that's it. Even simple macros can save you a great deal of time.